a team effort. We did a presentation last year on the waste statistics, and we're sort of mostly updating that, but in the context of emissions from waste and getting to net zero, and one of the programs in that context in particular. So, two ways of managing waste: landfill and incineration, we all know. The statistics here are saying that in 2000, it was pretty much all landfill. Landfill emissions are principally methane from biodegrading material. Incineration, it's mostly CO2 from combustion. And some people say we should also count something for materials destroyed, in the sense that if we burn a metal can, we have to mine some more metal and make a new one, and that involves emissions too. So do we see the next slide? Yes? This is a graphic?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So this graphic is showing waste emissions from 1990. The purple is from landfill, the lighter blue is incineration. So the first point here is there's an awful lot from landfill. It declined quite quickly from 2000 to about 2015, and then sort of levels off, but it's still declining. However, the gains we make from that reduction are lost by the increase in emissions from incineration. Okay, so the next graphic, this is telling us pretty much how much per ton of waste emitted we get in terms of CO2 emissions, and it's almost one-to-one. And this is done by a consultancy based on reporting from the incinerators. And what you see, though, is that the reported emissions are less than a third of the CO2. And that's because of two very important deductions. The first one is CO2 emissions caused by non-fossil fuel material. That's more than half. And the second one is a sort of credit for the electricity or other energy that the incineration produces. The authors of the report say very generously that no credit is claimed for saving emissions on from landfill. All right, so getting to net zero, the Climate Change Committee said 3/4 of emissions from the waste sector has to come by reducing waste and increasing recycling. The balance will have to be handled through carbon capture and storage, and we know already North London Waste Authority is in a group set up by the government working on that. The government's most recent waste plan says we have to get to 65% recycling by 2035. We have environmental targets in the Environment Act. Once they are decided by the government, they are legal obligations. So the waste one is a 50% reduction. Then Enfield Council recycling is a feature of the Climate Action Plan. We were supposed to be going from about 30 something, the low 30s, to almost 50, just as a result of the bi-weekly collections, but we didn't. And we're still hoping to do it by 2025. All right, so this is, to me, the most important slide for this evening. We are going to reduce waste by reducing consumption. And there's a government plan on this, says more about what could be done than specifically what's going to be done. But one of the things it focuses on is consumer information. So we can make more informed choices for sustainability and reducing our footprint. Okay, they didn't need to, they just need some Tony's tips, is what I would say. The most important point on this slide, though, is, to me, the Mayor's programme. This is called One World Living. And the new item here is what they call consumption-based emissions produced by Leeds University. and it's specific to London boroughs. The target is 2.5 tonnes per head, which is a pretty big ask. When I started learning about footprints, the UK average was over 13. Well, according to this data, it's now about 8.5. London is a bit less than the UK average for two specific reasons. One is that we use a lot more public transport than the rest of the UK, although maybe not so much in Enfield. And secondly, we have much higher dwelling occupancy, so we are more energy efficient. So anyway, within this, the good news is Enfield is below the London average, and we're 13th from the top borough, which is the lowest. So not so bad. So the key point is this is all about individual decision. This is called consumption-based emissions, but what it's really about is our individual footprint, what we're responsible for. And a lot of this we can change by making better choices and lowering our footprint. So the mayor is helping us and saying we should be focusing at the moment on electrical goods, food, plastics, textiles, restaurants and cafes. And it seems to us what we need to do is to be proactive about this, to think about and get information about what are our high carbon consumptions and what we can do to lower them. And it's really exactly the same with waste. You have to be proactive. You have to think about what waste you are producing, in particular residual waste, and what you can do to get that down. Okay, so the strategies to get to 65% recycling, I was going to start by saying what the problems are, but let's just skip them and go straight onto the strategies. And so the first one is called extended producer responsibility. This means the polluter pays. So in practical terms, for us, it's going to make organizations that put products onto the market in the UK pay for the collection and disposal of the packaging waste. And they do that by reporting on what sort of packaging they're producing. And there's going to be an entity they have to report to, and that's going to start in 2024. But the fees don't start until 2025. The payments are more for residual waste as opposed to recycling. And in addition, everyone will have recycling targets. So it's like tax. It's motivating a change of behavior from producers. The second scheme is the deposit return. So it probably is going to be about 20p per bottle. Only steel, aluminium, and PET plastic. We're not going to do glass, although glass containers will be included in extended producer responsibility. Quite a lot to be done here in terms of setting up an organization to administer it and getting machines into all retailers where you can drop off your bottle and collect your redeem your 20p. The third item here is not 7 bins. It was going to be the idea that we would help to do the sorting at home by having a separate bin for metal, plastic, glass, and so forth. But Rishi Sunak put his foot down and said, no, we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to have simpler recycling. And then a program was rushed out pretty quickly. This is, I think it's about 21st October. So pretty much the whole country is going to be told to do it to recycle pretty much as we do here in Enfield. It's the same recycling streams, glass, packaging, metal, plastic, paper, card, food waste, and green waste. It'll be flats as well as houses. It will include soft plastic. And to help us so we don't need to look stuff up and is this yogurt pot going into the blue bin or the black bin, there's going to be compulsory labeling on packaging. So this is going to start allegedly in March 2026 to sort of to coincide with the extended producer responsibility. And here what we've got is, so just in terms of dates, most of these strategies are coming from a European directive called the Waste Directive, and it's dated 2008, and we still haven't got around to it. So then, how are we doing so far? So this is just showing where we're going in the right or the wrong direction. I've taken the baseline as 2019, that's pre-COVID, and that's also the baseline for the government's residual waste target. So in England, we're going in the wrong direction. We have increased waste over the two COVID years. And this is attributed to the pandemic. We're all consuming a lot more because we're sitting at home and not doing much else. It's not a huge amount, and similarly, the reduction in recycling rate is not so bad either. England recycling has been pretty much hovering around 44 and 45% for a number of years, and everyone says it needs some of these new strategies to get that up. In Enfield, surprise, surprise, we're going in the right direction in terms of reducing waste, although most of the country and our neighbours had increased waste through the pandemic. Enfield actually had decreased waste, which was a bit of a surprise. They attribute this to the bi-weekly collection, although there are other theories as to why it happened, and it goes down a lot for 2020 and comes back up again in 2021. Over that period, the recycling rate really dives to 30.9%. Hasn't been that low since 2007-8, when it was 27.1%. We have the news from the dispatch that it may well be going up to 34% for 2023, which would be great news, but we have to see the data to see how that comes about. And then North London Waste Authority is going in the right direction, but here we've got data from 2023. They published their reports before DEFRA report published theirs. And so they're saying, well, it's fallen because we're now into the cost of living crisis and people are being less wasteful. Yes. And maybe they're being less wasteful with food because that's a big item of what North London Waste Authority incinerates. And as a result of their reduction in residual waste, then they have a small increase in their recycling rate. So that's where we stand. I was going to talk about some North London issues, but that would be too much, I think, and I haven't finished researching it anyway. And there's lots of references if you really want them, and I'd be very happy to provide you with a copy of the presentation if anyone wants it.